Hello, everyone. This is Robert Landau, Live Life Well TV host, with another episode of Health and Wellness Tips. Today, we welcome back Gwen Wilburn, who, as you might already know, happens to be the Senior Vice President of Clinical Operations for Retirement Center Management. That is quite a mouthful, Gwen, but welcome.
Thank you. Hi, Robert.
Good to have you back with us. And I think today's topic is very, very timely, and that happens to be fall prevention. Let me start with this, Gwen. Let's say the top 5 issues that residents face today physically in their day-to-day experience, where would you rate the idea of falls and fall prevention?
Well, preventing falls is extremely important, Robert. I mean, it's one of the main things residents a lot of times come to the communities for that fall prevention, because some of the stats I can give you is 1 in 4 older adults will fall each year. So that's a huge number. So moving into a community sometimes can help with that. Falling once doubles your chances of falling again. So, you know, those are just huge numbers, and very, very important to try to prevent some of those falls.
And so let's talk about that. What are some of the ways to prevent falls?
Well, first, if we look at some of the reasons why people are falling. So if you look at medications, sometimes can be why people are falling. So sometimes those medications can lower blood pressure, which can cause people to fall. Sometimes vision can be poor vision can be a reason why people are falling. So you want to have your medications checked out. The pharmacist is a good person to do that. Your nurse, if you're in a community that has a nurse, your physician, have them look at your medications and compare and see if there's any interactions between the medications. Vision, of course, go get your eyes checked out to see if you need a new prescription for glasses. Or maybe you need a brighter light in your apartment. That could help. Safety in the apartment itself. If you need some grab bars, maybe those could be helpful. Sometimes the environment in the apartment, if there's cords or if there's rugs, those can be unsafe. So those need to be removed. A weak lower body, or improper or unbalanced gait, which is, you know, when they're walking, that can be another reason for falls. And so sometimes therapy can help with that, to strengthen the lower body and to help with that gait. And also improper footwear. People don't always wear the right kind of shoes. There can be shoes that are too big, and this one is one of my favorites. I love it. The little ladies love to wear those little high heel shoes. And high heel shoes with a shuffling gait don't really go so great together.
Right.
But those are a few of the reasons why people are falling. And if you take each one of those and look at those individually and have those corrected, that will help with the falls.
And I have seen, and I love them all, but I have seen over the years some folks that can be a little stubborn. So if they are told to use a walker or a cane, and they don't want to use the walker or the cane, then all of a sudden, boom, right?
Yes, absolutely. So if and sometimes it comes down to being stubborn or vain, you know, I mean, and wanting that independence, but sometimes those devices help with the independence. And another stat, each year, at least 300,000 older adults are hospitalized for a fractured hip. And if that cane or walker is going to help prevent that fractured hip, then use it. It's okay. So it's very important. 'Cause
What's the best thing one can do when one falls? I mean, I've fallen. And there's that moment of, first of all, shock that it happened, because that was the last thing you were thinking of in some instances. But then panic can start to set in, particularly if this happens when you're alone. So what can you advise residents, sort of the steps that they can take if they happen to find themselves fallen?
Yeah, one of the most important things is if you're in a community and you can call for help, then call for help. That would be ideal to have somebody come help you. If you can, if there's no one there to call for help, then you can, I can't demonstrate it, but if you feel like you can move, you don't feel like there's anything hurting or broken, or you feel like you're okay, because a lot of people can fall and not be injured. They can roll to their hands and knees and get up that way. Because if they can get to their hands and knees, and then they can crawl over to a steady chair or something sturdy, and they can get up that way. A lot of times they'll break their fall with their hip and their wrist, because they go down that way, and so there's no easy way to fall. One of the detrimental things is whenever somebody does fall and say they're not injured, they become afraid to fall again. And so therefore they decrease their activities, and then they become weak, which therefore and weakness leads to fall. So therefore it's like this snowball effect. So it's really good to get help whenever you have that fall, or even keep exercising so you don't get weak, to prevent the fall to begin with. So just a few important tips.
Yeah, yeah. I think and many viewers know, I used to be a cruise director for many, many years. And it's not necessarily the same thing, but we, as staff and officers, were always told that if a passenger falls, and believe me, people of all ages do take falls on cruise ships, because they don't look at stairs going up or going down, or they miss walking over a watertight door area, so on and so forth, just getting on and off the ship in a port. We were always told that if somebody falls, just to be with them until help comes. In other words, we, the staff, were not medically trained to help somebody up. And I've seen residents, when they've fallen, or many just can't get out of the chair after they've heard a lecture for an hour, right? But then I've seen another resident come over and say, well, Mary, let me help you up. And then another resident, Jane, comes over to help too. And it scares me, because these residents want to help the resident who can't get up, but just like on the ships, they're not qualified, and they, just like me, on the ships, could do more damage than good. So I would always get a hold of the doctor on board, or some other staff who was qualified to help. That would be the same at an RCM community, yes?
In our independent living, where there's not medical personnel, so yes, they would need to call for, say if there's a concierge or someone like that that's not medically trained, that, like what you're saying, Robert, they stay with that person if they have fallen and they can't get up by themselves, and they wait until somebody that is medically trained that can come help. And that would be in the independent living that has they're calling 911 or someone that can come help them get off the floor or evaluate what's going on. So that's exactly the same kind of scenario.
And forgive me, I don't know this off the cuff, but I would think that most residents in assisted living and in skilled probably have a pendant, right? That they can press if they need help along those lines, right?
That is correct. They can call for assistance.
Yeah, and that's probably the best thing to do if there isn't anyone around to help. So, very important information. So before we close, Gwen, what would you say are the 3 most important bullet points to assist in fall prevention?
I'm going to say always have your medications checked out to know what you're on, to make sure there's not a side effect of medication lowering your blood pressure. Stay active so that you don't become weak, and use your assistive device if that is what you need.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Very, very important to prevent a fall. And then if one should fall, to know what to do so that it doesn't happen again. Thank you so much, Gwen. Another very informative episode. And with that said, we look forward to the next. Thanks, Gwen.
Thank you.
And this has been Robert Landau with Live Life Well TV. I'm a host, so there. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Health and Wellness Tips with Gwen.